Shortly after the Revolutionary War, a heated debate raged in Congress for over 7 years. The argument was where the site for the young nation's capital might be. In the end, the decision was made by our first president, George Washington. At the time, the site was little more than a meadow before the planners began work to design this grand city. Located at the confluence of the Anacostia and Potomac rivers, the District of Columbia was formed. This region, along the banks of the Chesapeake Bay, today plays host to our nation's capital, the great city of Washington. It's hard to imagine then. Today, the serenity of these rivers is broken by the dynamic pace, and the crackle of momentous events fills the air. The city's diverse culture is fostered by the thousands of diplomats, students, and immigrants enjoying the freedom our democracy provides. The city serves as the nerve center of America. It is a place where our past comes to life, and the future of the nation, indeed, sometimes the future of the world, is shaped. Each year, tens of thousands of visitors flock to the capital, making it one of the premier tourist destinations in the country. The tempo of the city is irresistible, a modern blend of southern charm and upbeat big city vitality with 1,000 things to see and do. In this production, we can show you the best Washington, D.C. has to offer, the attractions and locations that will provide you with a sense of history, drama, and of course, fun. As you traverse the archives of our nation's history, you may quickly become aware that driving in the city can be a difficult chore, and parking in the downtown area is very limited. A great way to get around in the downtown area is the Tour Mobile Company, offering unlimited reboarding privileges to attractions on and some off the mall on a daily basis. Many of these are anchored along the Washington Mall, which stretches from the Potomac to our nation's capital. But it's easy to be fooled by maps of the mall. It's bigger than it looks. The Capitol building itself is perhaps the most recognized building in the country to a majority of Americans. It sits in a marvelously landscaped 209-acre park on Capitol Hill, and it's the starting point for the city's street numbering system. It is here, in this 540-room building, where our lawmakers meet. The business of the House and Senate, while in their respective chambers, is open to the public. However, passes to the gallery should be obtained in advance from your representative or U.S. Senator. Over the course of its long history, the building has undergone numerous additions and renovations. But the feeling one gets when walking through the marble halls transcends mere architecture. Statuary Hall commemorates the great men who have labored in these chambers and those who have dedicated their lives to building a monument to what government should be. Before you leave, at the center of it all is the Rotunda. The dome features some outstanding murals. They're worth a close look. Across the street to the east of the Capitol is the Supreme Court. While open to the public, seating is limited, and the justices hear oral arguments just 2 weeks a month. Inside, films and lectures help define the court's role to the visitors. About a block away, and still across the street from the Capitol, is the Library of Congress. They say if it's been printed, it's here. The ornately designed and decorated complex contains everything from art to the papers of 23 of our presidents to about 100 million books, pamphlets, and manuscripts and other publications. You may enjoy your tour of the Great Hall with its Italian Renaissance design and unique statuary. But for the scholar, the main reading room is the prime attraction. To the west of the Capitol lies the U.S. Botanic Garden. The conservatory contains a wide variety of plants and flowers, both domestic and foreign. The orchid collection is particularly beautiful. Stretching out from the garden is the mall itself, a well-manicured swath of green which extends some 2 miles to the Lincoln Memorial at the West End. Along the way, on either side, are many of the repositories of our nation's history, culture, and treasure. It is also the home to some of our most recognized memorials. The Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and across the tidal basin lies the Jefferson Memorial. Each spring, the cherry trees surrounding the tidal basin blaze with shades of pink, and indeed, all around the city you'll see examples of this fine foliage. Many seasoned visitors to our nation's capital say this is the best time to see Washington. Another great time is at night. Many of the buildings and monuments flanking the mall are well lit for the visitor. Many of Washington's museums, art galleries, and sculpture gardens, 13 in all, 9 of which are located on the mall, are operated under the aegis of the Smithsonian Institution. Also located on the mall, the Smithsonian has often been called the nation's attic because of the vast collections of artifacts and memorabilia. The distinctive Smithsonian Castle, located about halfway down the mall, serves as the institution's headquarters and visitor center. Stop to view one of the regularly scheduled orientation films or consult the video kiosks that'll help you organize your visit to the various attractions and assist you in getting your bearings. One of the Smithsonian's most popular attractions is the National Air and Space Museum. The museum has over 24 galleries devoted to the history and development of air and space technology. Visitors can touch a moon rock, walk through the huge Skylab space station, or tour the studio model of the USS Enterprise used in the original Star Trek television series. The museum provides a permanent home for many of the actual machines used to advance the science of flying. They include the Wright brothers' original flyer, the Spirit of St. Louis, used by Charles Lindbergh in his solo crossing of the Atlantic, and the Apollo 11 command module, which made the first manned landing on the moon. The museum also has a planetarium and IMAX theater, and the exhibits are often changing. There are regular guided tours, which, by use of a rented cassette player, are translated into several languages. Just down the mall is the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden. This eclectic collection of American and European art often defies description. The history of modern art is presented in this building, which in itself is something of a work of modern art. The exhibits are shown on a rotating basis and run the gamut from the relatively familiar to the obscure. For a more traditional look at arts creations just a bit off the mall, the Smithsonian offers the National Museum of American Art. Here you'll see the work of American artists as they capture the culture, scenery, and indeed the spirit of the American people. Located in the same building, on the opposite side is the National Portrait Gallery. The famous and not are captured on canvas and shown in this elegant building. It was in this hall that President Lincoln held his second inaugural ball, and befitting this honor, the gallery's Hall of Presidents offers a tribute to the leaders of our nation. You'll get a chance to see the original works you've seen reproduced 1,000 times. From the immortal, unfinished painting of George Washington, it is a visit you'll not likely forget. Back on the mall, right next to the castle, lies the Arthur M. Sackler Gallery. Objects of jade, bronze, ceramic, silver, and gold from the Far East are presented. China, India, Southeast Asia are all represented, as well as the cultures from as far back as 4000 BC to the 20th century. Don't be fooled by the size of the exterior. The museum sprawls 3 floors with the entire exhibit area underground. Along the same architectural design and about 100 feet away stands the National Museum of African Art. The collection focuses on the traditional arts of sub-Saharan Africa. Its permanent exhibits include bronze, wood, ivory, and cast metal objects, as well as ceramic works. The exhibits change and provide a unique glimpse into a very different culture. Needless to say, the various collections under the umbrella of the Smithsonian Institution are world-class and touch nearly every facet of the world's many cultures and developments. The Arts and Industries Building is an excellent example. To the north of the mall, just across the ellipse, is the White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It has been the home of every U.S. president, with the exception of George Washington. While the first family lives upstairs, many portions of the White House are open for public tour. On the ground level, you'll see the Oval Diplomatic Reception Room, lined with murals depicting important events in American history. An outstanding collection of gilded service pieces can be seen in the Vermeil room. Paintings of the First Ladies line the walls and provide an intimate feel for your visit. China, representing most of the presidential administrations, is presented in the China Room. When not in use, the White House Library is also available and is a cozy place to read a book. On the state level, you'll enter the East Room. This ballroom has played host to the most extravagant and important parties our country has ever seen. You can imagine JFK or even President Lincoln dancing with the First Lady. This has always been a room of celebration and merriment. Over the years, the Green Room has functioned as the gentleman's room. On occasion, the president would entertain his guests, play cards, and discuss business here. Meanwhile, the First Lady would hold court in the Red Room. The Red Room is appointed with elegant furniture, and throughout the house, the walls are decorated with impressive paintings from the White House art collection. Between the red and the green rooms is the blue room. It's oval, just like the diplomatic reception room downstairs, and although not on the tour, its cousin, the Oval Office. It's easy to figure out why these rooms got their names. To find out how, you'll have to take the tour. Finally, the State Dining Room. Here, the White House staff has provided our presidents and first ladies with untold delights. The furniture and architecture all provide for an interesting visit. A visit to the White House can be the crown jewel to any visit to Washington. But remember, the First Family graciously hosts about 1 million visitors each year, so it makes it tough for a personal greeting, especially since these days, both the President and the First Lady are busy solving our nation's most pressing problems. Tickets to tour the house are available at the White House Visitor Center on the Ellipse and are limited. Not far from the White House is another building, the history of which is inextricably intertwined with the U.S. presidency. The name Ford's Theater would forever be etched in the public consciousness by the bullet which took Abraham Lincoln's life. The theater has been restored to its 1860s appearance and is once again used for live performances. But it also serves as a reminder of the emotions which once divided the country. Several objects related to Lincoln's assassination are kept on display. At the Capitol end of the ball is perhaps the finest collection of art in the country and maybe even the world. The National Gallery of Art is divided into 2 buildings. On the east side stands the IMP design structure, which houses modern and postmodern works, along with a great selection of Impressionist paintings. Hanging from the ceiling is a sculpture by Alexander Calder. It serves as a sort of welcome and was designed specifically for the building. No less impressive and a treat for the traditional art lover, The classical West Building, designed by John Russell Pope, houses an excellent collection of European and American paintings by such masters as Rembrandt, Monet, Renoir, Whistler, and the only painting by Leonardo da Vinci in the Western Hemisphere. Other great European and American masters add to the exhibits and provide a breathtaking diversion on your visit to Washington. A lover of art, especially Russian art, was a woman by the name of Marjorie Merriweather Post. Heiress to the Post cereal fortune, she made this estate her home and called it Hillwood. The home is as she left it, and was once to become part of the Smithsonian Institution. Today, it is toured only by appointment, but inside, you'll see the most extensive collection of Russian artifacts in this country. Mrs. Post became interested in Russian history and art during her marriage to the ambassador to Russia, Joseph Davies. They lived in Moscow during the 30s, and Mrs. Post began the magnificent collection you see today at that time. Original portraits of the Tsar Nicholas's father and his bride Alexandra adorned the lavish entryway. Exquisite Fabergé eggs commissioned by Tsar Alexander III and presented to his wife are on display along with the only Russian crown jewels outside of Moscow. Room after room is adorned with priceless artifacts. There's an excellent collection of Russian porcelain and silver. Place settings used by the last Russian czars are also on display. The grounds are no less impressive, with a Russian log house located in the well-manicured gardens. There's a formal French garden, a Japanese garden, and if you look close, you can see the Washington Monument from the back patio. Just across the Virginia border is a home that, next to the White House, is the most cherished retreat in America. This is the home of George and Martha Washington, and it is known as Mount Vernon. Washington's father, Augustine, bought the land and began to build the house in 1735. Back then, it was known as the Little Hunting Creek Plantation. When Washington's older half-brother died in 1752, George inherited the plantation. Over the years, George enlarged and improved the estate to its present size and beauty and renamed it Mount Vernon. Today, Mount Vernon is still privately owned, and the tomb of George and Martha are located on the estate, making it a national shrine. Also located on this side of the Potomac is the Arlington National Cemetery, former home to the Confederate General Robert E. Lee. During the Civil War, the United States government confiscated Lee's home and began burying the fallen troops in his front yard. Over the years, it has become an important site for such great Americans as John and Robert Kennedy, the Challenger Memorial, General Omar Bradley, and many other Americans that have had an impact on the history of the nation. You'll see the mast of the battleship Maine next to the Memorial Amphitheater, and on the opposite side stands the Tomb of the Unknown. Guarded 24 hours a day by the 1st Battalion, 3rd Infantry Old Guard, the tomb holds the remains of servicemen lost in World War I, World War II, the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Before heading back to the District of Columbia, you might want to see Old Town Alexandria. Long before there was a Washington, Alexandria served as a port of call for the early colonists. Today, you can walk down King Street and get a flavor of those old days. If you enjoyed Alexandria, then back across the Potomac, you're sure to like Georgetown. Today, the restaurants and shopping are excellent, but it's impossible to leave without a sense of history. Before you reach the west end of the mall, overlooking the Potomac River, is another facility which honors a martyred president, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The magnificent edifice is the cultural heart of the city. The center features a variety of theaters and stages devoted to music, drama, dance, opera, and the cinema. The Kennedy Center is located on the Rock Creek Parkway. Continue along the highway to the northwest and you'll find yourself in the park itself. It, along with the Potomac Park near the Capitol, are two of the favorite outdoor recreation areas for Washingtonians. The 1,750-acre Rock Creek Park contains several historic houses, an art barn, and a full array of athletic fields, nature and riding trails, as well as other public facilities. The park is also the setting for the National Zoological Park. As part of the Smithsonian, the zoo features more than 4,400 animals, but perhaps its most famous inhabitants are the giant panda bears, which were a gift to this country from the People's Republic of China. If watching the antics of the pandas stirs hankerings for exotic places in your blood, there is at least one other stop you should make during your visit to Washington. It is Explorers Hall at the National Geographic Society. The hall is just the place to fill your imagination with thoughts of trips to faraway places with strange-sounding names. Its exhibits depict the most famous of the National Geographic-sponsored expeditions to the various remote corners of the world. Before you leave Washington for any remote location, you might try an evening cruise on the Spirit of Washington. It's a tour boat that is anchored just south of the Capitol. You can take a romantic ride as a great end to your visit to one of our country's greatest cities.
In approximately 10 minutes. All crew, report to your stations and stand by to cast off.
For now, this is all the time we have in this city of hope. It's a place democracy built, and it will always belong to the tourist that visit it each year. We hope this brief tour has surprised, enlightened, and inspired you to plan your own tour of Washington. After all, the best trip is the one you take yourself. To make your trip as enjoyable as possible, plan ahead. And be sure to consult your AAA office for current information on travel routes, accommodations, and the places you would like to visit. Happy traveling!